Welcome to Sensitive and Self-Assured. Before we get into today's topic, let me tell you how I know you are in the right place. You feel everything, and somewhere along the way you started to believe that was the problem. My name is Alyssa, a highly sensitive woman who stopped trying to fix herself and started learning to trust herself instead. This podcast is for the woman who edits herself before she speaks, loses herself in relationships, and still quietly wonders if something is simply just wrong with her. Nothing is wrong with you. Your sensitivity isn't a problem to fix, and self-assurance isn't out of reach. They belong together, and this is where the two meet. I have noticed something that has been coming up with a few of my clients lately, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about it and then kind of revisit an episode from last summer that really kind of captures what's been going on. So often we can find ourselves like slipping back into some old thought patterns, some old habits, and you feel like you've already moved past them, and then you become very frustrated with yourself and almost embarrassed, like you should be further along by now, or you should have moved past that and it should no longer be an issue or never come up again. Like that part should be quote unquote fixed and just you're done with it. But it reminded me of this episode from last summer, and it is truly one of my favorites, and kind of talking about like what it's like behind the scenes to actually be a human. Because here's the thing, that slipping back into those old thought patterns and old habits, it's not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's just a very normal part of the process. And if you have been feeling discouraged because you find yourself in a place you thought that you had left behind, I think this episode is going to meet you right where you are. So take a listen. We are setting boundaries rooted in self-acceptance. And part of that accepting is that sometimes you are cruising along and you are using your skills and you are just firing on all cylinders and life is just kind of smooth sailing. And then there's a moment where you find yourself in a valley. And maybe something has happened, like a job loss or a medical incident for you or a loved one. Maybe you're experiencing a conflict in a relationship. Or maybe you've challenged yourself to do something new and it was harder than you expected. And you find yourself in this valley, and I think there's this misconception that there's this magical day, and one day you just get it all figured out and all the challenges go away. And I have noticed recently the people in my circle seem to be in a little bit of a dip. My clients have been experiencing some dips. My friends have been experiencing dips. I've been experiencing dips. My coaching colleagues go through this too. My mentors have seasons where they have been in a dip. Everyone experiences these valleys in their life. And when I think about it, I feel like as a former dancer, this analogy of life is kind of like learning to dance, or if you play an instrument or a sport, or you're learning any new skill, right? You start out with the basic skills, and when you have a good grasp of those, then you move on to a more advanced class that has new dance steps that are more challenging. And there are days when you perform it beautifully, and then there are days when your body aches and your turns and your leaps just aren't quite landing the same. Doesn't mean that you're not still a great dancer, but it's just kind of an off day. Or maybe you just don't have the energy to go full out, and so you're just kind of going through the motions of your routine. Or perhaps you have a setback like a sprained ankle or a torn ACL and you have to rehab. And when you come back, you have to relearn some skills that used to come naturally to you a couple of weeks ago, but now they feel like a challenge. Our brains are kind of like that too. We're cruising along, thinking that we have it all figured out. We're dancing to the new soundtrack, and then something happens and we stumble. Maybe you do go through a job loss or some conflict in a relationship. Or maybe it's not because you stumbled from something challenging like that, but you find trying a new skill presents its own challenge. Challenging ourselves in a way we've never challenged ourselves before, our brains can freak out and those old patterns can resurface, and you find yourself kind of in a valley and you think that something has gone wrong because that part of you gets really scared of something has gone wrong or what could go wrong. And so it gives you all of the reasons that you shouldn't keep doing it if you're trying something new, or all of the reasons that you really don't have the skills that you thought that you had, or you really don't have the self-acceptance that you thought you had. You haven't made the progress that you thought you had, and you start to feel all of this anxiety and apprehension. And then other emotions come in like dread and frustration, or maybe you're feeling ashamed because that anxiety is back and you're not making the progress and now you're going backward. And I just want to tell you that this is totally normal. Everyone experiences this. I've mentioned before that we have all of these voices in our head and these parts of us that have become just ingrained in who we are, that they've kind of become the soundtrack of our lives. And when we start changing, it takes some time to learn the new dance moves to the new soundtrack that we are playing. So I just want to encourage you this week that when this happens and you find yourself maybe in a season of a dip or a valley, try not to freak out and just remind yourself that what is happening makes sense and that it's kind of like the stock market. When you have a dip, it's a dip, but overall, your progress is still trending upward. Oh my goodness. Just listening back to that episode, it brings a smile to my face because I remember what it was like to record that one. I don't know why that particular episode is one of them that really stands out to me, but it does. And I just feel like this is such an important concept because this is very, very normal, and we all find ourselves kind of revisiting the same concepts, but from a different place. And I think that's the key takeaway is, that stock market analogy. You might find yourself in a dip, those old patterns have crept back in and you're being really hard on yourself, but I just want to remind you that you are not failing because that dip is not as low as the dips before, right? You're not behind, you're making progress, you're just a human and you are still growing. So be gentle with yourself this week and remember that you were never meant to abandon yourself to get through life. You were meant to live it sensitive and self-assured. Until next time, take care.